KHTS FM 98.1, AM 1220, and hometownstation.com. Carl Goldman with you. We are going to take a special morning and look at local elections. So you're going to want to stick around because we're going to be talking with candidates from the local school districts and also candidates for the water districts, our water district, the Santa Cruz Water District. And the local elections, November 8th is important for everybody to get out and vote, but I want to encourage you to study up on your local elections because whether it's the elementary school board, your high school board, the Heart District Board, or the water agency or our city council, they have the candidates and the person who wins in those has more impact on our lives than anything on the national level and or on the state level. So please let your friends know that we'll be talking with candidates today, and it will also be on our KHTS YouTube channel. We're broadcasting Facebook Live at the moment, so there's plenty of ways to educate yourself. It's my pleasure to introduce our first guest this morning, and it's the Castaic Area School District. We have Mayreen Burk, who's an incumbent,
Hi.
and Tracy Ford. Welcome here. I'll let each of you introduce yourselves for a couple of minutes and share a little bit about your background. Go ahead, Mayreen, why don't you start?
Thank you, Carl. My name's Mayreen Burk. I've been on the Castaic School Board since 2017. My husband and I have lived in Castaic since 2007, so 15 years. We raised our children there. They all went through the Castaic School District. And I'm an interior designer by trade, but honestly, my favorite things that I do are really the service that I do for my community. I love being on the school board. I love being involved and giving back to a district that gave a lot to my kids. So
Terrific. Tracy.
I am a retired school teacher and counselor. I worked for LA Unified for about 15 years. I am currently a graduate student with University of Arizona, getting my doctorate in clinical psychology with a focus on trauma and behaviors in children. And then I am also a parent to an 8-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. They both are special needs. My oldest has fetal alcohol and PTSD, ADHD, autism, and then my youngest has cerebral palsy, and I'm a foster parent and adoptive parent. So,
Tracy, what makes you think you're best qualified for the job?
my years as an educator, I was a teacher for 15 years, so I've been in the classroom, so I have that unique perspective of knowing what it's like to be in the classroom with the students, working with them, and with my counseling perspective. I also understand the mental health background that is needed to help the students. And then as a parent, I'm currently in the trenches, right? I have young kids who are in elementary school. My oldest is affected by the COVID shutdowns, by the potential of the vaccine mandates, and what that can mean for us. And then, and I have a young one that's coming into the school district that she's going to need the help too, because she has a lot of services that we weren't able to get during COVID. So she needs to have help catching up too. So just the fact that I have both the classroom experience and the perspective as a parent with young children right now, and I want to do everything I can to make sure that they have a good school experience.
Mayreen?
I believe that I am the most qualified. I've been on the school board for the last 5 years. I've had a lot of experience on it. I obviously attend the board meetings every month. I'm familiar with what's happening in the district. I attend school events. I'm around in the community and in our schools, and so I'm very familiar with what's happening in the district, just on all levels and with the budget. Though I'm not a teacher by trade, I've had a lot of experience working with children in serving in various responsibilities at church. Also, I was a volunteer for Boy Scouts. I was a Cub Scout leader, and I've just had a lot of experience with working with kids. And I have a lot of children. I know a lot of people in our community, and though I don't have a child in our district right now because my kids have been, are all raised, I care a lot about children and a lot about the children in our community, and I have a lot of friends and family. So I do feel a commitment to them to make sure that they have good leadership in the district. And a lot of what a school board member does isn't we're kind of the eyes and the ears of the community. So we don't necessarily need to have had an education background to be a good governing board member. So,
Maureen, what do you think are the three biggest issues for the district?
So the three biggest, like many schools just around our state and the country, is we have staffing issues. And most pressing right now of the staffing issues is we do have a busing issue right now where we are short bus drivers. It's tough right now to get like many businesses, actually, it's hard to get employees. And so the busing is a huge issue right now. And we have two communities in our area. There's the Valverde and then the Templin Highway that really rely on our busing services. And so those had been temporarily suspended for a while because there were children that had IEPs in our community that really legally have the priority to get the busing services. But we just recently found a company that is going to help us staff those busing routes, and so we've been able to manage that and take care of that. So, but that was pressing. The next thing is, like all districts, just the funding issues, and just being able to have the funds to hire and attract the people that we, so that we can staff. And the governor, Sacramento does a lot of one-time pots of funds, but what we really, it's hard to commit ongoing expenses from a one-time bucket of money. And so we appreciate those funds. What we really need is just ongoing sustained funding so that we can continue to, provide raises. And the next thing was kind of two-part: the social and emotional needs of kids and their academic needs. But I'm really excited. Our district adopted it's called Conscious Discipline Program. It's a social emotional program it's a program that focuses on children's social and emotional needs, and we adopted that. We rolled that out last year, and it's really exciting because we have it in our preschools, and so it'll be really interesting, really fun to see those kids that started out in preschool that will have had that emotional support, and then ongoing through middle school. So that's something that it's a pressing need, and we have a solution a program that we're
And
working on with
Castaic's
that.
different than the other schools in our valley in that you have the elementary schools plus 7th and 8th grade,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Whereas 7th and 8th grade is part of the Heart District and all the other schools.
Yes.
So Castaic is unique in that you on the board cover from kindergarten all the way up through 8th grade.
Yeah, actually pre-K and TK through 8th
through
grade.
8th grade.
Yeah, so that conscious discipline program spans the
All the way up.
whole, so.
Tracy, what would you say are the main issues out there?
Right. So I think one of the main issues and something that I've heard from a lot of parents in Castaic is the transparency from the school district and clear communication. So yes, there was a bus transportation issue, but it was told to parents at 5:00 on a Friday that come Monday morning, they weren't going to have buses for their kids. So I know that there are kids that haven't gone to school some days because their parents are having to choose between going to work and going and taking their kid to school, and they've got to keep a roof over their heads, right? So, work takes priority over that. And so parents are just asking for clear communication, an open conversation with the district, and it's something that hasn't happened, and for some. And so funding is an issue. But I think part of what we can do as a school district is bring in more students, right? Because with students comes the funding. And if we're not having programs like the dual immersion programs that New Hall and Saugus have, if we're not having providing opportunities for students that they can get in another school district, then the parents are going to take their kids elsewhere, or they're going to homeschool. So we need to figure out how to get some of our families back into our school district by providing those opportunities for them. For instance, my 8-year-old, and I'm going to be honest with everybody, she doesn't attend the Castaic school district, and that's because she's in the dual immersion program in Saugus. It's where we started before we moved out to Valverde. And I didn't want to move her because she's already been through so much. And so if Castaic had a dual immersion program, then I probably would have considered it, right? So I felt like her needs weren't going to be able to be met. And that's what I want to do, is I want to make sure that the families in Castaic's needs are being met. And then finally, I want to make sure that we have parental choice and we have a conversation with parents. We have potential issues with vaccine mandates coming up and parents' concerns over the COVID vaccine. And I want to make sure that we're having that conversation with parents and that parents have a say, because we work for the parents. We don't work for the school district. We work for the people who voted us in.
You're tuned to AM 1220 KHTS 98.1 FM and also hometownstation.com. Carl Goldman with you. We are talking all this morning to a variety of local candidates as we get prepared for the November 8th elections. In the studio right now, we have the Castaic Area E candidates, the incumbent Mayreen Burk and Tracy Ford. And we're going to take a short break, come right back in a couple minutes and chat more with Mayreen and Tracy. Hometownstation.com, KHTS FM 98.1, AM 1220. Carl Goldman with you. We're talking with candidates for the November 8th election, talking with school board candidates for the Castaic district. And with us in the studio are Mayreen Burk and Tracy Ford. And we're going to open this up a little bit and let Tracy, why don't you ask Mayreen a question?
Mayreen, I had a question about learning loss with COVID-19 and the shutdowns. Students like my daughter are very behind. What are the plans of the school district to make up for that learning loss?
Currently, at all of our schools, we have learning centers, and we have people that work, that are staffed in those, that are helping to target the specific needs of all those children, of all the children that need the help. We've also we've done a lot of professional development in the last year. Fortunately, we've had a lot of pots of money come from Sacramento to help fund some of this, and we've used that to, again, staff our learning centers and to provide the services that they need.
Mayreen, you want to ask Tracy a question?
I actually don't recall ever having seen you at a board meeting. Have you attended any board meetings?
I have not been able to attend a board meeting. As a single mom, it's been difficult getting babysitting, and as a special needs parent, trying to get the babysitting for it. And when it was online, I was able to view it and watch the school board meetings. And, I only moved into Valverde a year ago. Prior to that, we lived in Canyon Country. And then my daughter attending Saugus, I was more concerned about her issues and with the school board out there. But my plans are in the future to have that opportunity to get to the school board meetings and really see. But I do keep up. I talk with parents in the community. I keep up on all the issues. I advocating. I've been in contact with the superintendent over the bus transportation issue, specifically, reaching out to him and saying, what are the plans? This is the concerns of the parents, because they felt like they weren't being heard.
So if we have another COVID-19 epidemic or something similar to that, what would be your thoughts about closing the schools down again? Go ahead, Tracy.
That's a big no. Seeing what my daughter had gone through with the closures, it's just not feasible especially for elementary students. Being in the classroom is so, so important for them. They learn from each other, they learn from the teacher, and for many of the kids, virtual learning was just not an option, right? It just didn't work for us. And as a teacher, I've seen that. Like, I've taught in independent study programs. I've taught in the classroom. I've done it all. And so I can tell you that not all students thrive in a virtual learning environment. Some students don't thrive in the classroom, so virtual learning is great for them. And everyone should have that option. But research shows that, and what we're seeing coming out of research out of Europe, out of what we're doing in the United States, is showing that it did more harm than good. And so shutting down the schools again for something like that is just not an option. And we need to figure out a better way of handling it without hurting our students.
Maureen?
It would be a hard no as well. I am not in favor of shutting down the classrooms. The kids, our children paid a high price for all the craziness that happened in the last couple years, and it's really sad. I was one of the board, I was leading the charge on my board to get the kids back in the classroom, and so I was a big supporter of opening our classrooms back up as soon as we could, and so I would not want to shut them down again.
It was a real eye-opener for us. Our kids, we're empty nesters now, so our kids have long since graduated, but we do an annual KHTS Sacramento trip, and we take 4 students with us on the bus to Sacramento for 2 days of advocacy. And this time we asked those students to get up and share what their experiences were during COVID. And granted, they're high school students, but their impact and what COVID did for them both socially and academically, and shared what happened to their peers was really an eye-opener for me.
Well, humans are social creatures. And so for us to quarantine and stay away from each other, it did a lot of harm. I mean, we were already in a mental health crisis going into COVID with our youth, and now our mental health crisis it's very large, and it's something that we're going to have to dig deep out of with our students.
Yeah, my daughter was in high school at the time, and it was really interesting when they were finally able to come back to class, how few kids actually came back. And it was just really sad to see that loss of engagement that they had for it. And so we just did a huge disservice was done on them. And obviously this election isn't just about school boards. There's a state election for a governor right now, right? So a lot of what happened and the policies were coming down from that level. So I hope people remember that when they vote.
There's a elementary school here in Santa Clarita that has in their library the book Life According to Z, which is a transgender book. And there are other books out there that are far more graphic than this one, but it's sitting in the elementary school library, and I'm wondering what your attitude is. And the book's about a 7-year-old transitioning to a boy. And so I'm wondering, do you think that's appropriate in our schools? Should that be in our library?
I am not about banning books. For me, knowledge is power. And the moment we take away anything, even if it doesn't agree with what we believe in, we're taking away the opportunity to gain that knowledge. And so I'm not about banning books, but I am also about making sure that the information given to our students is age appropriate. And so I would love to have a conversation with parents if they're concerned about it. Let's have a conversation. Let's discuss it. I haven't had a chance to read the book, so I don't know. And I, in fact, tried looking it up on the internet yesterday, and there's not a single electronic, like not even a picture of a page in the book. So I have no clue like what is written in the book other than, the summary that is given about what's in the book. Now, if there's a kid questioning that and their parents are okay with it, then I think we should have that information available for that child so that they can figure it out, right? And so they have that information available to them. So I think it's a discussion that we need to have, and I can't say yes or no because I haven't read the book. So I would love to read it first before I say that.
Maureen?
I'm not in favor of that. I feel like that is a discussion for parents to have with their children. And if it's in the, that's more of a family discussion that needs to happen. And I don't think it's the school's job. I also, I just lost it. I think the overall thing we need to just remember is kindness. And so I think that, we're really focusing on teaching children to be kind to each other. And I think that that's the main takeaway. I think that we all that the kids need to learn. And so that if there are kids or people with a different, idea or a different way that they do things, that we just need to be kind. And so again, that book that's just a discussion for a family to have and not one in school.
I want to thank you both for joining us, and I want to congratulate both of you because doing what you're doing is I think, a real positive for this community, and having a dialogue is very, very important. Carl Goldman with you. That was Mayreen Burk and Tracy Ford. Make sure you go out and vote on November 8th. This is KHTS FM 98.1, AM 1220, and hometownstation.com.